Hi, everyone. My name is John McCormick, and today we're chatting with the talented, gifted writer and author, and my friend Dorothy Robey. So, Dorothy, welcome, and how are you this evening?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty good. We had a bunch of snow overnight and today, so we weren't prepared for that, but other than that,
So, it's really starting to feel like the winter season or the fall season.
yes, too quickly.
Yeah,
I would have liked that to start in December, but
yeah, yeah. Well, I did want to just say, it's wonderful to have a chance to, share your latest accomplishment, your sixth book, which is Relics of Life. And we are going to actually talk about that in detail, a little later. But this is your sixth book. And the first one being Passage of Promise in 2019. And what an accomplishment. Six books in 5 years. Did you think that you would ever do that?
I hadn't realized that until you said it that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
six books
Well,
in 5 years.
I think it's because I had so many I was working on at one time. So it kind of
Oh,
helped that I already had some in the wings to have out. But this one, it was a gap, but it's,
yeah, yeah.
it is kind of surreal in a way, but
Well, before you wrote all these books, which is amazing, you did take a hiatus there for a long time without writing. So what got you back into writing and what motivated you to say, hey, this is what I want to do now?
um, I think it was when I was homeschooling my kids, um, when I was in Massachusetts and then I had started doing college then online. And when I was teaching the kids, my younger son, some history, and we were just looking at over things, and it just kind of my interest came back that I really didn't like school when I was a teenager, but I was like, what? I was like, this is kind of interesting. So I want to go back to school. I didn't know what I was going to be at the time. I didn't know what major I wanted to do. I thought I was going to do psychology. And then I realized they actually had English and creative writing, and I had no idea that they actually had that out. Apparently, it's always been there, but I haven't ever
Yeah,
checked. So
right, right.
I thought, oh, well, yeah, I'll do that. Because I did start writing like about a month before I started school.
Oh, okay.
So somehow I had all these ideas that started to pop up maybe several months or so, started to develop that I hadn't had any ideas for years, because I was busy with family stuff. And
Sure.
so it started to come up, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna figure out what I want to do with this. And so yeah, the first thing I actually wrote was a kid's book. And then I went to Passage after that. So
Well, that's what I wanted to say, but before I was just want to know what do you feel contributes to your ability to write so well and for so long now?
oh, that's a good question. Those are some good questions. Well, I think I was given the gift, from God. So I've had that desire since I was in my since fifth grade or so, and then probably the teenage years is when it really took off, and then in my 20s before I married. So I knew at that point I had to get a job in business because I had to do something, that was that I could survive on, at the time. And so I did that, and then everything changed when I got married and had kids because your focus is all on that. So I didn't really, it never really came to my mind much after that. And it wasn't until I said later. And what was the other part of the question?
Well, your ability to write so well and for so long.
Well, my ability to write, as I said, that came naturally, but I did learn a lot through school and interaction with other writers. I think that really
Right,
helped.
right.
And so it's and then I've done it so long because it was pretty easy. I already had so many. I had so many already kind of sitting there, and I'd go back and forth between so many. And once I started centering on the one, I just worked on trying to finish that one.
Oh, okay.
And then I had the other couple that I could do later. So
Yeah.
that's pretty nice when you already have things lined up. Then you don't have to
Yeah.
try to hurry and figure out what you're going to do. But I never had any pressure though. When you don't have a a traditional publisher or editor where they're like, okay, get out the next piece. We want to. I could never do that because I'm one of those people that just writes when it comes to my mind. It's not a discipline every day. And
Right.
you always hear that. You always hear, oh, you should do this 500 words every day, or you should do 1,000 a day. Well, I
Right.
didn't
Right.
really let that work because you can't really force that. You have to kind of just be in that type of zone at the time. So I just went by that. And at certain times I was really involved, and then other times I had breaks. And then when I started working, it was more difficult because when I started working, my brain and my physical, it was spent by the time I get home. And so I didn't always have time to do that.
Right.
Your
Right.
brain has to be, you have to be in that mindset, and to get into that mindset takes a lot of mental power. So
Yeah.
I wasn't always doing that, but I think it's also, I'm pretty good at the English language. So my editing isn't, my editor doesn't have to do like really heavy editing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, and it's better for her too. So,
So it sounds like because you had so many things in the works going on at the same time, it just made it natural for you to be able just to continue on and on and on with your writing. You didn't really have to have a major gap in that. So,
no, I think ideas just kind of spur up from, things that random stuff, but at certain times though, if you've written something, it might trigger, oh, maybe I want to do something along those lines or something.
yeah, yeah.
My books kind of had that same vibe, where mostly women's fiction, um, more extrapolating from my personal experiences,
Right,
a
right.
lot of cathartic work and things like that. So probably easier for me to write.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, I did want to ask you, well, mention to you that this is our fifth interview.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
I can't believe it.
We started back 5 years ago when you were just writing Passage of Promise. It was on my radio show.
Well, that's right. I didn't have it done yet.
No, you were just writing it. Yeah. And then the second interview was when you did finish it and we talked about it. But can you believe it's been that long? I mean, I'm happy to have been on the journey with you as far as sharing your
Oh,
work. You know, I've
appreciate
really
that.
I've really enjoyed it, and it's meant a lot to me that trust me to be there and to get your
Oh,
work
great.
out there and
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated the years of your support, and you're always so encouraging, and
uh,
everybody needs that, and so
yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, I did want to say that we're going to talk about Relics of Life here pretty soon because I really can't wait to, share that with the world. But I just wanted to ask you about your writing. You write in so many genres. I mean, it's just amazing. And this last one was really, surprising, it's
yeah, kind of
different from
different.
all the
Yeah,
others, you
yeah.
know. But tell us a little bit more about your writing. What motivates you? What do you try to focus on? I know that you write a lot about women's fiction and suspense, humor, Greek Orthodox traditions. That's very important to you. But what else about your writing, that you like to do and that you do?
Well, the first book, as I said, was a children's book. When I got back into writing, so it was
Hmm.
kind of like a good practice piece. I did finish it, and but it was maybe someday I'll go back and work on it and fix it. But then I thought, oh, that's a totally different job. That's even more different. And then I'd have to figure out a whole different way of marketing that. So I don't know yet. I have a few ideas for other stories. I'm really kind of liking the genre of the one I just did. I'm reading books on that, and I'm really into it.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to be into it, and then I went in and started reading. I was like, hey, this is really good. things like that. I've never liked science fiction, but then here I am kind of on the science fiction edge.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've thought of different things, um, certain storylines that I thought of, and I was talking to my older son about it, and he's like, "Mom, you have to figure out the time warps and all that." I was like, "Oh, I'm not, I'm not gonna because
Yeah.
he goes, you have that time, there's a time. How did he say it? Time pockets, you could fit that in there." And I was like, I don't really know too much about that.
Right, right,
He
right.
does. So that's why I was asking him, but just things, that pop in your head. And so it's been fun. I will say though, most of the books I did at the beginning, like Passage and Painted and Passage of Promise and Painted with Good Intentions, were kind of on the same type of background there. That was kind of the same kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Location. And then what she didn't know is unique. I still think that's my most meaty and deep book as far as like struggles and characters.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
I think that one is just in its own. And then, of course, Behind the Stone House was just kind of I mean, I wrote that in, gee, I think it was maybe 2 to 3 months. It
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
take long. And then, of course, Rocky Retreat was fun. And
Oh,
so,
that one's really fun. Yes.
yeah, that
The
was totally
characters.
different. But, I had that written in 2015. So it was just sitting there for a while. So I had that, but I didn't put it out until 2021. So,
Well, you talked about Passage being your first book, and you know me, I have all your books here. You
look at you
know,
all set.
see, they're all here. I got them all. But now, that book was the only book you wrote with Dorothy Robey. So we want to let everyone know that you write under the pen name now, Dorothea Anna.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
other five books. Oh my goodness. I still can't believe there's 6 books, That's just amazing.
Yeah.
What a journey. What a journey. But now I did find Passage of Promise, a very touching story because of the main character, traveling to Greece, trying to find a wandering working icon to help her sick nephew Christopher. Now, I do believe that you said in previous interviews that that was something that hit you personal, the reason why you wrote that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I did. That was based a bit on my son's health and his
Right.
his background. And I used a lot of that experience with him in the scenes with her sister and Christopher. And so that was pretty easy to write because I understood all that. Um, I think it helps because if you're going to be doing anything with medical thing, hopefully you understand because people will read it and be like, oh, I don't know if that really happens, and but it did.
Right, right,
So for me, it was pretty easy to do that. But I felt I don't know why it's just something. Maybe it's just something I felt I needed to write about because that happened when he was very young.
right, right.
He was 13 months
Mm,
when he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So
mm, yeah.
um, I think, you go through all that time of taking care of him and taking him to therapies and doing his G tube medicines and, food. And you're just kind of in this robotic pattern every day of, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. And the stress level is really high, but you're living in your own bubble. You don't really you kind of are insulated. You don't really feel like you're part of the outside world,
Right, right.
which is kind of described by Barbara in the book,
Mhm.
where she says, I'm in my bubble, and then once in a while her husband would, poke and that's kind of how, so that there's a bit of that there that, can explain how it feels to be a special a family with a special needs kid. because
Right, right.
basically how it is. And so, and we stayed in Seattle. We were in Seattle at the time. And we went to the children's hospital there. And so we spent a lot of time there at the McDonald house.
Mm.
And so I had friends on the internet then, I was in a different group, message boards and everything then. And I had a group of moms there. And
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, they were my little group because, they would send me things for my son, which was really nice. And you kind of feel like you're in this well or something, in your own little world. And then you get these things and it's kind of an interesting feeling.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But it teaches you a lot when you're in that position. It teaches you a lot to the importance of empathy and because I was around a lot of families with kids that were in really serious
Yeah.
conditions of different types of cancer, and it was pretty tough. So I learned a lot about putting others before yourself at that time. And you just learn that a lot of people there's a whole world there that you don't know about. You know what I mean? You all of a sudden, oh, there's this whole world here that I didn't know about. And so you get a lot more understanding about that than than you would have if you hadn't been in it. And
Right,
you
right.
have to look at some things as gifts, even when it's difficult. So
So that's really like your perfect first book because you wrote about something you already know about, something you could relate to, yourself. So yeah, that seems like that would have been the perfect book for you to write about. Yeah.
yeah, it was a great starter to open up to my writing in my life. So it worked.
I wanted to also talk about your other books, here. So what she didn't know, that one, like I shared with you, really hit home for me. I could really relate to it, and I think a lot of people can. But it was just amazing about how the sisters, their relationships, how they grew up with a alcoholic, abusive father, how it tainted their relationships, and the whole story is just about how they maybe can be able to get connected again. So but what I really loved about it too was near the end. Well, I don't want to give it away, but at the time when you picked the time to let us know how you came up with the title, you know. So there is a twist in the story, which I think which really added to it. Yeah. Was there anything about writing that something like somebody that was going through that or anything or what?
No, I mean, it was a subconscious thing.
Oh, okay.
Because um, when I wrote that, I think it was in 2021.
Hmm.
Um, it took me a year and a half to write that. So when did I put it out? 21. So I did start it in 2019,
Oh,
but
okay.
it took a year and a half for me to get it out. But at that time, I don't know why I came up with that. That's why I'm saying it's subconscious, because I think it was something that I do know that when I was sharing that with my critique people,
Right, right.
a couple of them were like, wow, you're really good at you're really good at understanding abuse victims. And I was thinking to myself, well, how would I know that? I I don't know anything about that. Why would I? And then it turns out that 23 years I was with an abusive man and I didn't know it because
Oh,
I was programmed and I was gaslit, and I was living in a kind of oppressive deal. But I didn't know, I didn't know until my therapist said, oh, you're, and because I gave her some information on text messages and things like that in 2020. And I said, well, I was doing pretty good. And that seems that the Holy Spirit was really watching over me because I
yeah,
was
yeah.
doing this and protecting my sons. But I was the last to know because both my sons wanted me gone from there before I did. So,
Right, right.
and
So
so I
yeah.
think it was a subconscious thing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It sounds like it was subconscious. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But it's just kind of weird how you don't know, how you write, and all of a sudden it's just things just happen.
Right, right.
Whether you want it to or not, things just come out and you learn, and I'm sure that you've had that too when you write.
Yes, yes, definitely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you mentioned about Behind a Stone House, and that one I think is very touching also. It's about a widower, a lady who lost her husband, and then she finds out that her husband's cousin is homeless.
Yes.
So he kind of dives into that to help him. And, so I thought that was a very touching story. I was just wondering, in Colorado, is there like a lot of homeless people or anything that motivated you to that you see?
Um, that one I started in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that scene, that area is easy for me to write about because of that. But
Oh,
I
okay.
think that main thing just came out of nowhere. But I think there was a feeling of me wanting to share more of empathy for people in that position. I think there is a feeling of trying to show that in my faith, there's not revenge, there's not vengeance, there's forgiveness and there's reconciliation. And so I think I was working on those messages in that.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's very touching,
That's
Yeah. Well, let's talk about The Rocky Retreat now. That one was really fun to read. All your books are fun. But what I really like about, before I talk about that, I just wanted to mention, I also like how you add humor and romance to a lot of your stories. I think that's a nice combination. But with Rocky Retreat, you kind of get into like the political kind of genre a little bit and
environment. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and in these days, that's that's a big issue. But yeah, that one was really fun to read. And then, of course, Painted with Good Intentions, you go back to Greece, you know.
Yes.
And and I love Greece. Now that I've read your books, I want to go and I want to visit there.
Yeah. I love people say that. Oh, I feel like I'm there. Well, it's I felt like, oh, I want to do one more in that area.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I did that. And I think there's a little bit of cathartic stuff there as well in that story for Christina.
Yes.
But uh, I really just enjoyed writing that because the character, the two sidekicks were so much fun
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were.
that I was just like, I just, you know how it is. There's certain characters you write and you just love writing them,
Yes, yes.
because when you write characters, they kind of take on their own, you just kind of follow where they're going, but which happens once in a while. So, but yeah, it was an interesting book, but it did have just about everything in it. It had the romance, it had the humor, it had the mystery, it had
The mystery, that's what I like, the mystery
yeah,
too.
it
Yeah.
had mysticism, it had everything. So, I don't know why I do that, but I just feel like I like to read books like that have a variety. I'm not into romance books. I won't just read straight romance, but if it was like a suspense, romantic suspense, or I'll read that. So
Yeah.
I kind of the same.
That's kind of like what you're writing sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the suspense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, now what I'm excited to do is to talk about your latest book, which is different than all the others. And of course, I have that book too, Relics of Life. I read it basically in one day. Okay.
Wow.
I started it and I read a little bit because then I got kind of busy and I said I got to get back to this book because it hooked me right away. And I said I got to get back and read it, and I just spent the whole day reading it. I couldn't put it down. So basically, like I said, I read it in one day, and it's just amazing that it relates so much to what really is happening in the world today. Is that what inspired you
That
when?
was part of it. Yeah. I actually started writing it in January 2020, which is kind of odd because it wasn't the same kind of atmosphere as it is now when I put it out. But I wrote the first page then, and then I never touched it for like 2 years.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, this sounds like a great start. And then I got on to my other books, got those
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it, I was like, oh, I should probably, and the reason why is because um I started, yeah, the environment of everything that was going on, especially during COVID and everything like that, it inspired me to write more because I was already writing a bunch then, but there was a prophetic aspect that I felt compelled to write about this.
Yeah. Tell us more about what it's about. Yeah.
So it's the first time I've done dystopian. So I was like, well, we'll see what I can do with this because it's not your everyday dystopian. It's kind of a different, and every dystopian story, you always have an oppressive government. You always have, as they call it, the resistors. So I was kind of, it kind of started swaying certain ways. Some things I started to add later, but I just knew that I wanted to put a picture together from more of a microcosm, like from the town and just a family's view, so that people could understand it without, because you can't really do like a whole world. That would just take too much, and you need somebody that can relate and stay with a smaller group of people. And so
Right.
I went
Right.
with that, and I combined it with news stuff and prophetic stuff.
Right. Right. Right.
And so I combined both of those loosely to a certain extent, but not too loosely. um,
Yeah.
and I was struggling with it like the last few months. In 2022, I picked it up again. I was working, and then 2023, and then I really forced myself to get done in 2023 because I felt it was urgent for me to finish it. I
Yeah.
was like, I need to get this done before something happens. That's what it felt like at that time for me. So I went with that, but it's funny because it's a dichotomy. It was the hardest thing I've ever written, but at the same time, I never ran out of material.
That's
I
wonderful. Yeah.
was constant. I could have added all kinds. I was, oh no, you got to stick with just this.
Right. Right. Well, I know
It,
you kind of mentioned in it a little bit about a little bit of what's going on in the world outside of the United States, but and recently, with the election yesterday and the fact that North Korea now has joined Russia to fight against Ukraine, I mean, it's pretty scary,
Middle East
about
is
where the
blowing
world
up.
is going,
Yeah,
and that's what makes your book so great is that it's very relatable and believable, and it
timely.
and timely. And then of course you have, like you said, about like the relics, for example, and that adds the spiritual, everything else to it. So, and then the struggles between the characters dealing with their faith and keeping their faith while they're struggling with everything else that's happening around them, because some people can lose their faith if they see things like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's true. That is true.
let me hold on just a second. Let me see here. It says that our meeting's going to end in about 10 minutes. So I just wanted to let you know we have about 10 minutes. And that's good because I did want to ask you though, with the Orthodox religion, there are a lot of relics. Is that correct?
Hmm. Yes, there's relics all over the world in different churches.
Hmm.
They house them in certain type of containers, relic containers, and um, sometimes they travel to different churches.
Oh, okay.
So so for instance, there's an icon of the Theotokos, the Mother of God with the baby Jesus that was just up in Parker, which is about an hour and a half north of me. So they bring them to the church, and then people can venerate it and do prayers for
Oh, nice.
sick people or whatever. And there's times when we had a Saint Paisios's. We have a relic of his. I'm not sure. I think it was his and it's a Greek word, so I don't remember what it's called. But it's
Yeah.
it's one of the little robes they wear over. It's like
Yeah.
a thing that goes over. And I think we had like a piece of the cloth from him. And
Oh, okay.
he's from Greece. He's in he was in Mount Athos area. So and people walk by and they would go and they cross themselves and you do a little prayer. I never remember at the time though. I'm so caught up in trying to do I forget to actually pray. Once in a while I do that. I'm just like I gotta hurry up and do this. But there's people I know that went through the line that they were saying that one of the gals had cancer and she went through and she was healed after her prayer. So
Oh, that's
it
wonderful.
happens.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's great. And that's why the whole relics thing is pretty common. Um myrrh-bearing ones, myrrh streaming ones of
Yeah.
like holy oil and blood definitely happens.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a lot of bleeding icons in 2020.
Yeah. It seems like it would
Oh,
be around that time. Yeah.
yeah, so there was that and a few after, but so I thought it was good to capture that in the storyline because of the monks, which I thought was um pretty bold of me to write about because it's not easy to put yourself in the monk's point of view.
Sure.
But I think that I've learned a lot from them, so I was able to do that. And it's interesting because when I was writing it and I was passing it around to my critiquers and it would switch from different groups of people and other people and then in each chapter and all these people who aren't even religious. Well, where are the monks? We want to see the monks. Where are the monks? I was like, what? Okay. It was just interesting.
Now, are you working on anything now, or is that like another book or anything?
Um, I had two that I was working on, and I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with. I mean, I'm one I'm a little bit sure about, but the other one, and it's kind of more into the more like suspense women's fiction again. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe I want to do something else along these lines again.
No, okay.
I haven't figured out exactly yet what I want to do with that.
Well, when you do have something like that, you got to come back after you publish it. And we're going to talk again. But I did want to mention ways that people can follow you. On Amazon, I follow you as an author. So I always know when your new book comes out. So it's Dorothy Robey. And then your blog website is dotluvs2 right.com. That's your blog. And then on X, which is Twitter, it's it's dot writer 3. Yeah. And then the Facebook author page, which is great because you put everything on there. That's author Dorothy Robey / pen name Dorothea Anna. And then on YouTube, it's .r. And then I did want to mention on my YouTube channel, if I have a special playlist that says Dorothy Robey interviews. So,
Oh,
so all you have to do is go to John S. McCormick videos, and my name on there is John S. McCormick, and you go to the playlist, and it says
yeah.
Dorothy Robey interviews. So all four of them are on there, and this one will be on there too. Hopefully tonight.
Well, I
And
appreciate it.
then, and I know when you promote your books, you do them in your church sometimes, and bookstores and libraries. And I'm going to try to get your books back into the San Francisco library.
That's so kind of you.
Yeah, I can't believe it's there. Your first book, Passage to Promise. You know.
I'm hoping to do a signing event in at Barnes and Noble, my local Barnes and Noble.
Oh, wonderful. I was going to ask you is if you had anything else planned to do that. Yeah.
Probably in March because they were full up but next year she said get in touch in January and they should have something in March. So
And then two, are there any other ways to follow you, or is that pretty thorough?
yeah, that's thorough. Another one. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, is there anything else that we haven't chatted about that you wanted to bring up that you wanted to talk about or?
Um, no, I think we covered everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's great. That's great. Well, I can't thank you enough for another wonderful interview. You know,
Well, I also want to say thank you for doing all the interviews, and I want to thank you for your newest review. I really appreciate it. I saw
oh,
it,
yes.
and it's very nice. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness, because every review has a different, you know, focus point or the idea that they come up with. It's just you never know. It's very different from others, and but they all kind of have the same thing of the meat and the core of the book. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I enjoyed reading it, so it was easy to write a review about it.
Do you have a favorite character?
My favorite character, let me think. Who was it? Well, the main character, the character who is trying to help everybody, and get out of it.
Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie. Yeah, yeah. She was my favorite character. Yeah.
Really? Okay. I know a lot of people say Ava, so I thought, well,
Oh, Ava's fun. Ava's fun. Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, okay. And I also asked somebody else, and she said Olga, and I said that's great because Olga was my
Oh,
most
Olga was great
right.
too. Yeah.
I loved to
There were
write her.
so many of them. There were so many of them. Yeah.
Yes, there are a lot. It's
Help you
true.
keep losing your train of thought. Well, I just want to say again, thank you for the interview, and we'll have you back again when you have something you want to share.
Well, I appreciate it very much, and I'm very thankful for all of the work that you've done, encouraging and helping. And I always, it's always so easy to have interviews with you because we just
Yeah, we have a
tend to,
good time. We had fun times.
yes, we do.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Well, have a wonderful evening, and
You too.
be looking for that YouTube video. I'm going to get this interview out, and
Okay.
hopefully everyone you can share it, and everyone can see about all your work that you do, not just your latest book, but all the books that you have shared.
Okay.
All right. Well, have a good night.
Well, you too.